All right, let's go over social learning theory. So this is going to be week 2. And this is the whole reason I have you in groups. So this is Lev Vygotsky. And he's one of the popular researchers with social learning theory. He's not the only one, but he's the first one we're going to discuss in class. And I've got you placed into different groups so that you can practice some of these elements of group learning. One of the main classifications is cooperative learning, and that's where you have a defined leader. It's the easiest way to tell the difference between cooperative and collaborative. Do you have a defined leader within the group? Then it's cooperative. You have somebody kind of directing the process. If you don't have a defined leader, then it's collaborative learning. So let's look at each one of these. Let's go into cooperative learning. There you have a defined leader. This is great for things that need participation from all group members, but you need direction. So the leader would direct individuals or at least define what needs to be done. And if you have a difficult task and you have a person with a lot of experience in that area, it can be good, even dependent upon leadership style, to have somebody kind of direct what needs to be done, kind of divvy out responsibilities so that everybody has a clear direction. And especially if there is a time limit, if you have a specific time things need to be turned in, you have a deadline that needs to be met, cooperative learning is often best because the leader can keep everybody on task. Now, the class itself is cooperative because the teacher functions as a defined leader. They've come up with the assignments, they're directing the learning, they know what needs to be done, they've set the deadlines, and they're trying to get the students to accomplish a task to help them learn the information. And this class is designed around that. If you look at your large projects that we have to turn in, that final writing sample that you'll turn in at the end of the semester takes everything that we've done throughout the semester and combines it into one project. And that is cooperative learning in a nutshell. The teacher has come up with all the assignments that would guide the student, help them get repetition with the information using multiple different means, and then it goes into a final project to essentially tell the story of what the students have been doing all semester, what they've learned. So that's why we classify that as a writing sample. So if you go to a university, it explains exactly what this class covered and the experience you've had with these educational theories. So the teacher created that. That would be cooperative learning. And this is anti-competition, right? We all have a unifying task or several tasks that leads to a unifying task. We're not competing with each other. We all have the same goal in mind of trying to get this accomplished. And then our leader kind of directs us or allows us to know what the big picture items are in order to get that done. Now let's look at the collaborative method of learning. So there we have no defined leader. It's all about individual contribution. You have a lot of experts in the field that understand the subject matter or have the skills necessary to accomplish the task, and everybody's just chipping in. So this is more group facilitation, meaning that they're all facilitating the process, all contributing towards the end goal, but there's no clear director. And this all relies on an individual's strengths. All the people that are contributing to this task, all of their individual expertise being thrown in. The problem with that, and what you may see if your group adopts a collaborative learning model, is there's not clear direction. And if you don't have enough experts in the field that knows what needs to be done or knows how to do it, things might not get done on time. We're going to have some groups that are cooperative, have clear direction, function great. Some are more collaborative. What I've seen over the years is the individuals that take more of a collaborative model, that don't have a defined leader, end up getting in trouble. Not all, but some, because they don't have a clear director of the process. There's no one individual saying, hey, we need to get this done. Here's the time it needs to be turned in. And there's no clear direction on who's doing what. So you have a lot of people sitting around twiddling their thumbs and nothing's getting done. Or they have to do everything at the last minute, because then they realize nothing's being done because nobody's communicating what has happened so far. So think of open source is a great example of collaborative learning. So we have this program, everybody's chipping into it, everybody's doing their part, everybody has their expertise, some know a little bit more than others, and at the end of the day, you develop this open source program that may potentially be way better than it could have been with any other model, because you have a lot of contributors to it, but there's no direction, there's no deadline. This is just happening organically. So OpenAI, originally, it was like that. You had a lot of individuals contributing to this AI model, and it became really successful. And then eventually Microsoft got involved, Profit got involved, and the model has changed. It's been skewed. It's no longer what it used to be. But originally it started off as open source. That was collaborative. Everybody was contributing to make this program better, or this AI better. Commonalities between the two. This is the reason I drew this out like a Venn diagram. There are commonalities between these two types of learning. They're both great for group work. It's the reason I have you in groups, and it's the reason I give you a choice. How do you want to function? It's great for social learning, especially for those individuals that still need to work on their interpersonal skills, meaning how do I interact with other people, having that intelligence to know how to get along and function within a group. Their intrapersonal communication improves because then they kind of understand themselves, or their intrapersonal intelligence improves. They understand how they function and their role. Like if I'm an introvert, I know the role I kind of need to take within the group. If I'm an extrovert, kind of gives me some ideas of how I can function within the group. Active learning, great for anything where you have like a project-based setting where things need to be done, especially complex tasks that are going to build over time. Social learning is great, and this is great for real-world applications. So most of your careers are going to involve interacting with other people to get tasks done. Even those that are individual, where you may think, oh, I'm going to end up working alone, I'm not going to have a lot of interaction with other people. At some point in the day, you'll probably have some sort of interaction that involves your work to get tasks done. And these types of models are great for practicing that before you get out into the real world. And that's why we start with social learning, because everything we do in class involves social learning and interacting with others. All right, let's look at Lev Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. This is another reason I have you in groups. There are going to be things that you can do independently. Like you have the expertise and you have the know-how, you don't need a lot of help, or you're just super interested in that topic and the learning is almost intuitive. It's almost natural for you to learn that information. Then there are going to be things that you need guidance from either your group members, because maybe you have some group members that have experience in that field and you're just going to kind of follow along and learn from them, or have them help you out. Or maybe your whole group doesn't know what to do and you need help from the teacher. And then there are going to be things that you don't have the experience to deal with yet. Either how to take that information in, maybe you haven't processed how or practiced how to perform an activity. Maybe developmentally you're just not there yet. There are going to be things that you can't do yet, even if guided. So that's the reason our activities in class, I try to pick things that are new and novel, because somebody may have experience, but most of you won't. So you may have or need help from that individual that has experience, or maybe it's a situation where I've picked an activity in class or a theme for the activities that nobody in your group really knows, and then you're going to need more help from me. Now, I've tried to pick activities that are simple enough that almost anybody can learn it. And hopefully we won't get to this point where there are things that you can't learn yet. And same thing for the theoretical concepts that I've picked out in class. I've tried to pick information that you can apply to your own learning so you can adapt to any teaching style that you can either understand independently, or you're going to need a little help from your group members to help you understand or see the application, or maybe even help from me. But I try not to make my class so complicated that there are things that you can't do, even if guided. So I try to look at just big picture items. So this is where cooperative and collaborative learning fit in, right here, with the activities that you're going to need help from your peers or from the teacher. And that's going to tie us into leadership, because there may be an individual that has experience with this activity that can guide their group without help from the teacher. So that's what this illustration is leadership. Let's move into that. And this would be the topic that we would cover on the second day of the week. So there are a lot of different models of leadership. We're just going to cover the big four, or really the big three and how they tie into the fourth. So authoritarian would be somebody that directs their group members. So you do this, you go do this, you go do this. Giving direction, telling somebody what they're going to do without necessarily giving them a choice. That would be an authoritarian leader. And that's not always great. It's good for situations where you have a life and death situation and you got to make quick decisions, like in the military or police force. Like if we're in the military and we got to take this building or this hill, you would want to give clear direction. We couldn't use democratic leadership because then nobody would surge forward to take this hill because of the risk to their life. So we need to be a little bit more authoritarian in the military when life and death decisions are on the line. Then we have democratic leadership. This is something that you'll see in higher education, where you're given a choice. And that's where everybody just kind of picks their own part of an assignment. That would be democratic. Everybody is voting on what needs to be done first. Everybody is choosing what they want to do. Those all would be examples of democratic leadership. Then you have delegative. Now, delegative can be combined with authoritarian or democratic fairly easily. And let me give you an example. Delegative would be where responsibilities are divvied out. So an authoritarian delegative approach would be you do this, you do this, you do this, no choice, right? That's authoritarian delegative. Then you have democratic delegative, and that's what they use kind of like in Google, Apple, where you have a lot of experts in the field and everybody is trying to get to the area where they have the greatest strengths so they can help the group out. So let's say I'm a leader at Google, and we have to do some sort of video project, some sort of book that has illustrations in it, that has QR codes in it, that has all this technology embedded within it. So as a leader, I might say, okay, hey, I'm great at video production. I would like to handle that. Who wants to help me out with that task? All right, so I look around. I've got group members raising their hand. Okay, can you and you come over and help me out with that task? We have these illustrations. Hey, I'm terrible at illustration. Who's good at it? We have a couple people raise their hand. Okay, can you two get together and work on that illustration? Hey, I'm terrible at writing. who's good at writing? We have a couple people raise their hand. Okay, you two, can y'all get on the writing portion of this? And let's all start working on our parts, and let's come back together once we get these done at this certain time, and let's try to put this together. That would be democratic delegative. And that's what I like to use, because you're putting your best people on the task they're most interested in, or at least the task they have the most experience in. When you go authoritarian delegative, you may have put your weakest person on a task that they have no strengths in, or that they're least interested in. So they're not going to have the motivation to put a lot of effort to get it done. So all three of these tie into situational leadership. And that is, we're letting the situation determine our leadership model. If I've got a life or death situation, I tend to go authoritarian, making quick decisions. If I've got time and I've got experts in the field, I tend to go more democratic delegative, where giving people choice, but more cooperative, where I'm guiding the process. We have a defined leader, and I'm trying to put the best people and give them a choice on where they feel they have strengths that will assist the group. That would be situational. And I almost always use more of a situational model. There are other leadership styles. There's empathic, there's motivational, there's transactional. There are a lot of different models, but these are going to be the big four, or at least the big three that tie into situational that we're going to cover. Here are the references. I will give a longer lecture in class, but that gives you the big picture items. It kind of explains the structure of the class as well, on why we've chosen to have group work and how it benefits you moving forward.